Good afternoon, grade 10s. Mr. Broadbent here again with another video for literacy test practice. Today we're going to look at short answer questions. But before we get started, I think some jokes are in order. What happens when chocolate first meets milk? Well, of course you get a chocolate milkshake. I know, that last one was bad, and I know what some of you are thinking. You have got to be kidding me right now. And if you thought that last joke was too bad, just let me know and I'll tell you some more. Let's go over the learning goals. So in today's video, we're going to go over what to bring to the test, what sort of things you need to bring. We're going to spend a little bit of time just going over the different kinds of questions, especially the weighting of the questions on the test, and then we're going to review that answer, proof, explain sort of strategy for the short answer questions. So what should you bring to the literacy test? First, you want to bring yourself to the room that you're assigned to. Ask your Period 1 teacher where you'll be writing. Everyone will be in Xavier. If you have an IEP, there's a good chance you're in the library, the computer lab in 104, or maybe in 103. Some other things you want to bring. Bring a pencil and an eraser and an extra pencil. You can bring a pen. You can write the test in blue or black pen. They don't want any funny colors, but we really recommend doing it in a pencil because if you make a mistake, you can erase it easily, whereas with a pen you can't. Bring a highlighter, okay? So you can highlight those specific details as you read through texts. Even if you don't bring a highlighter, you can still underline those specific details, but it's nice to have a highlighter. Also, you can bring a book or a magazine to put underneath your chair if you finish the test early. Something else I want to add, no cell phones, iPods, etc. Allowed during the literacy test. So if you finish early, you can't get your phone out. So bring something to do if you're somebody who will finish early. You also want to make sure that you get a good night's sleep before the test. Eat a good healthy breakfast before the test. You want to make sure you have lots of energy to make sure that you do the best possible that you can. So remember, this is the weighting on the literacy test. Almost half the test is multiple choice questions, and almost a third of the test are the short answer questions. That's what we're going to look at today. The essay and the news report are each worth about 12% of the test. I'm going to give you another strategy for figuring that out a little bit more. Here's maybe a simpler way to think about that. There's 81 marks on the literacy test. Now they don't tell you how many marks each question is worth, but I can tell you. They just don't put it on the test. I'm really not sure why. But out of those 81 marks, each multiple choice question is 1 mark. Okay, and there's 39 total. So remember, each multiple choice question is worth just over 1% of the test, or 1 mark. So make sure you answer all those questions. Even make an educated guess if you have to. Don't leave anything blank. Out of those 81, the essay is 10 marks, and the news report is also 10 marks. Now the short answer questions, that's what we're going to talk about today. They're the remaining 22 marks. Okay, and these are, remember, they're almost a third of the test. So you want to do a good job on those. Something to keep in mind, there's 2 kinds of short answer questions. If they're about a reading, so you read a little passage first, then answer the question, they're worth 3 marks. If they're not about a reading, then they're worth 5 marks. Okay, the reason they're worth 2 extra marks is they look at your spelling and grammar. That's where they get those extra 2 marks there. So something to keep in mind, those short answer questions that are not about a reading, they're worth half of an essay. Okay, or half of the newspaper report. So make sure you do a good job on those ones. We're going to go over some strategies to look at those today. I almost forgot, there are a few field test questions on the literacy test. Field test questions are not worth any marks, okay, but you have to do them because we don't know which ones they are. Okay, they're sprinkled in throughout the booklets, and the reason for that is they're really trying out the wording of questions. Okay, and the reason they do that is so that future years on the test make sure the questions are worded in a proper way. So all the questions that count for you will have been tried by previous years, so that you're sort of doing a favor to next year's group by doing those field test questions. There will be between 6 and 10 field test multiple choice questions, between 0 and 2 short answer questions. The field test questions make up less then 8 minutes of time for each booklet. Okay, so sometimes people get worried about that. Don't be worried about it. Less than 8 minutes it should take you to do any of those field test questions. So when you answer those short answer questions on the literacy test, you want to go ape. Go ape. Answer, proof, explain. You get 6 lines to do that. You should do all 3 of these things in those 6 lines. Answer the question. Use part of the question in your answer to start your answer. If they ask you how something started, say this started by, for example. Proof. Find some proof in the text. So that's specific details from the text if it's a question where there is a text to read. Make sure your proof is as specific as possible, and make sure it's good proof. And then the most important part is explain how your specific details support your answer. It's not enough just to have some proof without explaining it. You need to have, and you can't explain without proof. So you need to make sure that you explain how your details support your answer. It doesn't have to be in this order, but it certainly can. In the Period 1 video, I read an article about high school starting at 10 o'clock at one school. This is the question for that reading. What does the schedule change, so changing to 10 o'clock, show is a priority for staff at the school? Use specific details from the selection to support your answers. So those are specific details I would find as I was reading through, and I need to explain or support my answer. After reading a question like this, I would definitely go back to the text and have a look for those specific details that I'd want to use and choose the best specific detail. So then I would go back to the text. This would actually be at least the 4th time I would go back to this text if I were doing this as for the literacy test. I would find some proof. For instance, here it says some schools that have experimented with a later schedule report less student depression, fewer dropouts, better test scores, and higher grades. That's the piece of proof that I'm going to use, because it's pretty specific, because it lists lots of different things, so that makes it a specific detail. I'd then write up my answer, proof, explain type response. Notice in the answer part, the orange part here, the change in schedule, using words from the question. The change in schedule at this school shows that student learning is the priority for staff. Now I get into proof. The text says that schools with a later start time report higher grades, better test scores, and fewer dropouts. So that's my specific detail. But that's not enough. I need to explain it. By changing the start time, staff at this school is trying to get higher grades for their school because students will be more rested and better able to learn. So it's not enough to just have the proof. You need to explain how the proof supports the answer. Just one last example. This is a question that does not have a reading attached to it. So this would be a 5-mark question. And they look for spelling and grammar here as well. Identify the ideal destination for a high school trip. That's what they want as the answer. Explain your choice, and then green with specific proof, specific details. So they say an ideal destination for a high school trip would be Quebec City. That's their answer. Then they get into some explain, supported with proof, some more proof, and then some more explain. Okay, so it doesn't just have to be in that format. You just need to make sure you do all of those things. For instance, here students would observe a new culture and practice their French language skills while learning about Canada's history. Okay, they support that with proof. Furthermore, some proof. Quebec City is a provincial capital, so students can learn and understand about Canadian politics. Explain. There's no wrong answer for a question like this, so long as you can back it up with proof and explanation. So what did we look at today? We looked at some things that you should bring to the literacy test, especially pencils, highlighters, a book to read if you'll finish early. We also looked at the different kinds of questions. Remember, everything is either a 1-mark question, multiple choice, 3 marks, short answers about a reading, 5 marks, short answers not about a reading, or 10 marks, essay and news report. And we spent a lot of time looking at the answer, proof, explain that you can use for multiple choice questions. Just before I go, one last piece of advice, maybe not specifically about the literacy test, but Just like clownfish, always try to keep your friends close and your enemies closer. If you'd like to rewatch this video or watch any of the other videos, they'll all be posted www.youtube.com/user/UCC literacy. Alright, thanks. Good luck on Thursday.